This week, 45 counts of Super Bowl champs. The NBA Finals reach an all-time low. Jay Prince puts the brakes on Drake, and suicide numbers continue to climb in the U.S. Tight, we got a busy show. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Well. We back in the building.
Recording live from the ATL. Had opportunity, man. Was out on the other day, riding around in the city. Had opportunity to go to Tyler Perry's studio. Just rolled by there, man. I didn't know. Yeah, have you seen that before?
I haven't seen it. I've been around it, and I've seen it on the internet. He got a compound, my friend.
That's a compound. I wasn't anticipating. I was blown away.
Genius move to and that's it. I'm guessing you went to the one that was the old like Air Force Base.
Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
It was over in East Point. I tried to get on base. I rode up in there. You know how you just kind of ride up in. You haven't been over there yet, right?
I haven't been up in there.
So it's a huge campus right across from the East Point MARTA stop. They got big fences when you go through there. They got a welcome center and have a real big screen right there at the entryway that's kind of showing some of the the shows that he's worked on, like the Have and the Have-Nots.
Yeah. And
so when you go to the left, it's almost like going to a theme park where you got the gates and everything, and they got the security guard or what have you. So me being the guy that I am, I wanted to see if I could make my way through security.
So what was your play? Who were you?
No, I wasn't being. I was just playing dumb. Okay. I thought. Can I got a tour today. It's the tour. What time did the tour start? And the guy was like, I ain't no tour today. I'm just trying to figure out how I can get back through there. So I wasn't able. He just said, nah. Well, what you can do is run around that loop right there and get on up.
He was nicely saying, get the hell on.
Basically, but man, I was blown away by Tyler Perry Studios. Like I said, I thought when we looked it up, we were just kind of riding around, looking at different areas in the city, and I thought it was going to be some little building or what have you. Man, that is a huge compound. If he got people that's working on the shows and need to be able to get to the studio, they can access the studio via public transportation. So very impressed with what Tyler Perry was doing. I had no idea that he was at that level. And I guess dressing up like a woman or dressing up like your grandmama can get you a compound.
And that's funny because one of the Muddish movies was on TV the other night, and I was thinking about just what you're saying and how he went from those plays that were somewhat on the chilling circuit and amassed all that to being on the big screen and like now having a big production studio and being on the front end of like the film industry in the South.
It was impressive. And the reason I did that is because, and then even just to back up, I mean, prior to making those Medea, his story, they say he was homeless, so he's going from being homeless to having his compound. But, Atlanta is black Hollywood. And so I'm starting to see different, here recently they was recording a film right over at, near the ballpark. They was recording a movie over there. And so just starting to see a little bit more production taking place and that kind of struck a chord with me. And I just wanted to go see exactly what this studio was looking like. It's the real deal.
We next, man. We next. So we might as well go ahead and start taking us some acting lessons and start getting out here on the audition. So maybe we can get on the circuit.
I'm bleeding for it. I'm bleeding for it.
That was classic, man. That little segment that we did from last week. If you ain't heard it, feel free to go back and check out last week's show. Classic material. That whole bleeding concept.
I'm bleeding for it, but man, I don't know. As long as you behind that coat art, man.
I'm I'm bleeding for that too, man. I want to be like Basquiat. I want to go down in history. Remember me.
Okay,
I'm back in my man cave, man. I'm back in my man cave. Just bear with me. It's all good. It's all good.
People start watching these YouTube videos, and first thing they
Man,
gonna ask is why is he standing behind
you
this
acting
coat
like
piece of.
you acting like this your first time seeing this type of stuff. We had this conversation one time already, man. Don't act brand new.
I'm just saying
New
it is
picture.
what it is.
New picture. Who did? Man, hey, the NBA Finals is over quicker than most expected. 4 games and done. Friday night saw the end of not only the NBA season, but possibly the end of an era of LeBron James being a part of the Cleveland Cavaliers, the hometown team. They got swept 4 games by the Golden State Warriors, and this is the second consecutive loss in the finals for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You weren't pleased with the NBA Finals. It kind of played out the way that I thought it was going to play out. Game 1, I think, set the tone for it with the J.R. Smith. We call that the J.R. Smith. That'll go down in history as the J.R. Smith game.
That was 21. J.R. Smith playing 21.
Yeah, playing 21. So I guess we can just get to the question that everybody is asking is this the beginning of the end for like the NBA? Is what we've seen this season, the playoffs with this particular series, is this an indicator of what the league is going to look like for the next 10, 15, 20 years?
When you say the beginning of the end, are you saying from a competitive perspective, or are you saying from just overall product? What do you mean by the end?
You can get into all that. Definitely like the quality of the games. But I'm guessing like in the competitiveness of the games, but how much will that? You know, we're seeing this, I guess, this imbalance in the competitive where you've got 3, maybe 4 teams out of all of the teams in the leagues that are just dominant, and then everybody else are bottom feeders. So even from a competitive standpoint and the bottom line, like is the league deteriorating?
So overall, the sales of the NBA will continue to increase. You're going to see more talent, just skill level improve in the NBA, I think. But the overall game has taken a hit. The product has taken a hit because of the lack of parity. That's what I think you're referring to in regards to the competitiveness. There's definitely a shift in where it's top heavy. And I think the overall NBA product has taken a hit because of that. I wasn't surprised at the overall results of the NBA Finals, and that's because you essentially have 3 Hall of Famers on one team, maybe 4 if we consider Draymond to be a Hall of Famer. But when you have that level of talent and basketball IQ playing against a LeBron James led team that really, after LeBron James, the talent level takes a hit. I think the overall NBA Finals showed the lack of just parity, but also the overall product took a hit. And I was trying to think of a company that kind of had something similar. I was thinking about when Coke has the original Coke, and then they came out with Coke Zero. I don't think sales did so well. And I think that's kind of what we saw with the Golden State Warriors playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. Just the product, it wasn't a great product. And unfortunately, if they don't find a way to kind of incentivize talent to stay at the smaller markets, I think we're going to see this occur throughout the next few years.
Yeah,
there has to be some type of incentive. There need to be some type of incentives to keep the better players in those smaller markets. And right now, there there isn't enough incentive to do that, in
Yeah,
my
and
opinion.
I wonder what would be like a starting point because everybody can't be a New York City or L.A. or these larger cities that already have a lot to attract people to come there. So I'm wondering if it would be something like coaching, where you come in and you get coaches that have, I guess, a revolutionary approaches to the game that are more player forward. Um, that could actually be tough to get somebody to go to Toronto, you know, or even go to what other place? Maybe Denver, places like that, places that don't even really have a playoff or a championship contending history already, but they got a team. So that could be a tough. I think the front office has got to do a better job. I don't know what type of trap that Cleveland fell into. Some people say that it was just LeBron fatigue. LeBron is a player who demands a lot, not only from the people that he's on the court with, but also from the front office as far as acquiring talent and things like that. So I don't know what it would take to get that done, but something had got to change because it's going to be tough to keep that energy when you got the same teams every year going back, and then those teams have all of the great talent bottled up, on a small number of teams. But my heart go out to LeBron, man. Just to see what he's done in his playoff. He's been heavily scrutinized about it, but to do what he attempted to do on a night in, night out basis, getting placed in a situation where you got to put up 30 plus points every night in order for your team just to have a chance. Not even guaranteeing a win, but just to have a chance. That's tough, man. That's tough.
With the broken hand.
Well, now see, he did that to himself. and once again, we can blame JR for that. They say that he was just so emotional knowing that they had lost out on a prime opportunity to win that he went and punched the blackboard.
Thank you, JR. Don't be JR.
No. Okay, and so you bring that up. Now, on the back end, after everything, the games are over and all of that, LeBron did that final press conference, and he had the cast on his hand. And people are trying to figure out, well, don't come out with that now as if it would be an excuse for his performance in the last couple of games. I personally saw it as just gamesmanship. I'm the best player on the team. I'm not going to let my opponent know that I have some injury. So I think I probably would have done the same thing. But a lot of people are critical of that moment, saying that he's just using that as a way to play off them not winning and him probably not putting up them 40 and 50 points.
No, he didn't want to give the opponent the advantage of knowing he was injured. So he didn't reveal it. But once again, we wouldn't be in this situation had J.R. Smith not played 21. So he allowed his emotions to get the best of him, and everything is an if then. If they had won that game, then who knows the end result? He wouldn't have had a broken hand. Blah blah blah.
Series might have been different.
So, I mean, it was hard to watch that series, and I actually mentioned it on our previous show. I was more into my Caps. Shout out to the Washington Capitals for bringing home the Stanley Cup.
They got one.
Yeah, we got one.
Is this the first one, or is this just the first one in a lot of years?
I think it's the first one. I think this might have been the first one. I think they said since 46, perhaps. So I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that the Caps were my team. They have been my team ever since I relocated to the D.C. area. So I actually stayed up. Let me tell you an interesting part. I turned the TV off on the NBA Finals. I stayed up and watched the duration of the Washington Capitals bringing home the Stanley Cup. So that just shows you how much more entertaining NHL playoffs were compared to the NBA Finals.
I agree with that. But now it heats up. It gets more interesting because LeBron is a free agent this summer, and everybody wants to know where he gonna end up at. Will he stay in Cleveland or will he go to some of the other teams that are hot on his trail? And some names that have been thrown out there: Houston Rockets. They might be in the run in San Antonio, L.A., Philly, just to name a few. Here lately, I've been hearing Boston, Miami. So he'll likely have his pick of where he wants to go if he decides. My vote is just to go to L.A. Now, people say don't go to L.A. because if you go to L.A., you ain't really trying to win no championship no time soon out there with Lonzo Ball and Uzma and those young players out there. But I think that's good. He got homes out there. He got businesses out there. It's L.A. It's California. The weather's good. Might as well just go out there and ride off in the sunset as an L.A. Laker.
Well, he's trying to do something that no other player has done, and he's essentially trying to. He made eight finals this past season, and I don't think he wants that streak to stop anytime soon. And because of what you just said with the lack of talent in LA, he won't go to LA yet. He may finish his career in LA when he's ready to transition over to the next phase of his career and his life. But at this particular point, he'll go to Houston or Philly. Definitely won't go to Boston. But I think between Philly and Houston, he'll find a home somewhere where he can compete and continue that streak for the next 2 or 3 years. What I've heard from the great Jalen Rose is that I believe this was Jalen that was saying that I think he got at least 5 more years in him. It's being rumored that he wants to play until his son is able to make the playoffs. And so his son is a very talented middle school ball player, extremely talented. I think he has about 5 years before he's eligible for the NBA. So I can absolutely see LeBron playing another 5 or 6 years to welcome his son to the NBA and to do some type of handoff, passing of the guards to his son.
Well, he can't end up in those situations like Cleveland where it's only him carrying the team, because if that's the case, he ain't gonna make it, because knowing what my 36-year-old body feel like, shit, and he getting close to it, that's gonna be a tough hill to climb. San Antonio is a good look. That's one to keep an eye on too. He got a good relationship with Greg Popovich, the coach over there, so it'll be something to look out for. That'll be exciting to see where he ends up. But I hope he pick right, because he went through it this year.
I mean, I know we about to transition over, but you missing your 36-year-old body, but your 36-year-old body ain't getting in no chamber. You ain't getting blood infusions. You ain't drinking from the fountain of youth. So, unfortunately,
my 36-year-old body ain't gonna be the same as LeBron 36-year-old body.
Nope.
You might have a point.
Not at all. Not at all.
You might have a point. Update, man. I caught a lot of flack about this. I actually got labeled a Kim Kardashian fan, that I was just all up on Kim Kardashian for her meeting with the president and how she went up as a spokesperson, what you call them, a activist, a social justice warrior for.
She was a social justice. She was something.
Kim Kardashian turned into a social justice warrior in the matter of a
shout out to Kim K for being a social justice warrior.
Be careful, man. Black Twitter ain't gonna go for that. But we
Go ahead.
We talked last week about that meeting, and she was going, like I say, advocating for a woman, Alice Marie Johnson, a 60-something-year-old grandmother who had been in prison, serving a life sentence for an involvement in a drug trafficking ring. Kim Kardashian talked to President Trump about it, and a few days after that meeting, she was granted clemency. Her sentence was commuted, and she was released from prison. And so, we were left in a position of saying, good job, Kim Kardashian. Your work paid off in the case of this woman here. And so after that, you got to know that everybody wanted to talk to Kim Kardashian. So she actually made her way to CNN and sat down with she sat down with Van Jones, actually. And we all know who Van Jones is. And just talked about her meeting with the president, what she felt like was accomplished there. And then also talked about how her husband, Kanye West, has actually legitimized the president.
I'm just going to throw them at you. You tell me who's right and who's wrong. Trump is using you as a political pawn. So now you're sort of, you've endorsed him in a way. You've kind of given him legitimacy. You might be in a campaign video. He used you.
I think Kanye's already given him legitimacy, so I don't, in that way. So I was working on this before, so I don't, I don't think I would be used, and at the end of the day, he heard me out. We got the job done. So I don't think, what could he really use me for?
So here we are, man. We got Kim Kardashian, social justice warrior, politician, having one-on-one meetings with the president. Kanye gets credit for legitimizing the president. And the woman that got released, Ms. Johnson, says, thank God for President Trump. Shit done got wild.
Shout out to Kim Kardashian for being a social justice warrior. A lot of people behind the scene, and a lot of people are behind the curtain, talking the talk, but social justice, Kardashian West is walking the walk.
We screwed.
Hey,
we are officially screwed when Kim Kardashian can actually position herself as a potential player in policies and reform, social activism. We in trouble.
Shout out to social justice, Kardashian West. We'd like to thank you for all your contributions to prison reform, to going up to the White House, putting your feet down, and forcing 45 to make America great for Black America.
And that's exactly what she went on to say with the whole legitimizing the president is Kanye has legitimized the president in the Black community. So he's given President Trump an in into the community as someone who is, I guess, interested in issues that really plague the Black community.
Hey, the West family are doing big things. West family are social justice warriors. They're purchasing property in Wyoming. They are on Celebrity, Family Feud.
We're fucked. I've been looking at islands, man. I've been looking at islands. For $3 million, we can get us an island in Brazil. So if anybody interested and looking forward to a relocation, you want to take your talents elsewhere, let's pool this money up and we can just start this whole thing all over again. All we need is $3 million.
I didn't see that. But in all due seriousness, I did not see the Van Jones interview. How did that go?
It went like I said it went. She had, what can you say, though? What can you say? He asked a question, and she said that, she went up there, and the president heard her. Some people are feeling like he was just using her as a pawn or a play in his bigger game, and she was basically like, we talked about this issue. What could he possibly use me for? So she really, I think in her mind, conceptually feels like that this was one of those moments where you go and you talk to somebody about the issues, and they hear you about the issues and they respond to them. And so
what the internet say? They mad because she got the lady off, or what the internet say?
I hadn't really seen anything, because what can you say? What can you say based off of this one moment in time? How can you argue that when what she went up there and did got accomplished?
Can I make a plea? Can I make a plea to social justice warrior Kardashian West?
Talk to him.
Social justice warrior, come in close. Colin Kaepernick can't get a job in the NFL. you've been successful in getting this lady off in the state of Alabama. We need you, social justice Kardashian West. Please help Colin Kaepernick get a job in the NFL.
And seriously, that is the next step. If I think that's the only thing that you can say. If you've been standing out and you haven't been able to make these type of gains, is, well, if you the plug and you got the access, we just gonna send you up there to just speak on behalf of all.
Exactly. Don't hate now. If she getting them all, let's whisper in her ear. Kardashian, we need Colin Kaepernick to play. We need him on the team. Kardashian. That's me whispering in her ear. So nobody else can hear. So nobody else can hear. Yeah, nobody else. Miss Kardashian, nobody else can hear us now. It's just me and you talking. We need Colin Kaepernick in the NFL.
This the Illuminati. They setting this thing up perfect. And I think this does validate what Kanye has said before about running for president. This thing is lining up. He putting himself in position to be a candidate, and she making herself to be seen as a first lady. She already got her platform set up. If she get in there, she gonna be running on social justice, prison reform.
Well, like I say,
criminal justice.
I'm not a Kardashian West. I don't watch the TV show. Don't come after me, Black Twitter.
But you knew about her gonna be on Family Feud and all. You knew her whole resume.
Well, I watch the Family Feud now. That's just why. If you watch on ESPN, NBA Final on ESPN, you see commercials. So that's just me. Like I say, if I don't support all that stuff, but if she can get people along, well, let's leverage her access.
I've been looking at Ireland, so if anybody interested, hit me. We can make this happen. Start over.
What you got next?
Man, listen, I guess we got to stay at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, your former home, Washington, D.C. We got to talk about Trump and his recent interaction or lack thereof with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it's in customary. We know that the Philadelphia Eagles won this past season's Super Bowl. Champions of all leagues, and most leagues in sports, one of the things that you get for being a champion is the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and take a tour of the White House, meet the president, get a picture, get your team, get your effort and your accomplishments etched in American history forever and ever. Well, the Philadelphia Eagles is not going to get that chance. President Trump last week canceled their trip to the White House.
Okay.
And his reasoning was that along the way, he got word that only a few people would be interested in attending. The rest of the team was basically going to boycott the White House. And we know that this stems from, the NFL protests and just people's overall just feeling and vibe towards the president. So they ain't coming. And instead of the meeting with the Eagles, the president decided to have a small gathering and termed it the Celebration of America. Well, we found out that our president don't even know the words to God Bless America. How ironic is that? So, sitting here, you're a former Washington native. You know how much that thing is, those two things, the championships and the White House visits, are connected. How do you feel about it?
So I think that what we're seeing is, so the invitation to the White House at one point in time was considered a big deal. You get an opportunity as a champion of your respective sport to go and pay homage to the traditions of the White House. You get an opportunity to meet the president. In this particular situation, Philadelphia Eagles, from what I've read, They originally were going to have 70-some people visit, but that number dwindled down to 10 folks agreeing to visit the White House. One of those 10 being the mascot. So,
bro, they put that out. They put that out.
So what happened is upon hearing that they had gone from about 70 plus people willing to attend to about 10. 45 put out the following. The Philadelphia Eagles football team was invited to the White House. Unfortunately, only a small number of players decided to come, and we canceled the event. Check this out. Staying in the locker room for the playing of our national anthem is a disrespectful to our country and kneeling as kneeling. Sorry. What the hell are you talking about?
He went back to that.
What? He got that. What the hell? So this is what I interpret. You got a guy. He popular at school. I mean, not popular, but he got money at his school.
Yeah.
He put out his birthday coming up. He put out invitations, and he thought he was gonna have people come to the show. Nobody wanted to come to his birthday party, so now he canceled it and try to make it seem, and then change the whole narrative. So since nobody wanted to come to my party, I wasn't gonna have a party anyway.
He butt hurt. Yeah,
he came with the stand in the locker room for the playing of our national anthem. It's a disrespectful to our country and kneeling. Sorry. What does that got to do with anything? Where did that come from?
He got to talk to his believers.
The Philadelphia Eagles didn't even take a knee. They were Malcolm Jenkins and those guys were using the fist.
Yeah.
And they were raising the fist. So it's obvious what he's trying to do here. He has the biggest microphone. He is trying to control the narrative. And he's essentially trying to, he feels as though the NFL and the kneeling is something that he's worn. And he's connected with a group of NFL viewership that don't follow the news, that don't understand the whole purpose and why the players are taking a knee. And he's speaking to that ignorant audience group. And he just totally changed the narrative in that one sentence. Because the only thing you can ask is, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. He got to make his point valid. He got a vendetta against the NFL, which is crazy because just a few weeks ago, you had a league, the NFL, come out with this whole new policy as far as the whole anthem thing to appease him, to make him feel better. And he still got this vendetta against members of that particular league. So how far is that going to go? What does that say? But the Eagles, fortunately enough, have some support. The mayor of Philadelphia spoke out in support of the Philadelphia Eagles and said how outrageous it was. Just saw a TMZ interview with Terry Bradshaw. He was sitting down at lunch, and he said that it was ludicrous, and he supports the Philadelphia Eagles and all of this. So, I mean, he's just doubling down on his own personal feelings about the NFL and his own personal gripes with the league.
No, what he's doing is he's all about controlling the narrative, and he's all about when he feels like he's winning on an issue and it's connecting with his base, then he continues to speak at that. And that's essentially what he's going to continue to do. It's because you have too many people that are ignorant to even the entire reason behind the kneeling. You have too many people. And it's surprising because you and I and those in our circle, they're aware of what's going on. They're aware of why the players are kneeling. The issue is that you have more Americans and those that tune into the NFL on Sundays that still don't understand the purpose of the kneeling. Yeah. They have no idea. And so when you have an audience group that is that ignorant and that clueless as to the whole reasoning behind it, then you can have someone like 45 that can continue to essentially throw that meat out there and continuously say things that don't even align with what the underlying purpose is. And so that's what he's doing. It's unfortunate because he knows what he's doing. He's playing to that, and it's very disheartening.
And you brought up Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins is a part of that Philadelphia Eagles organization. And he's also one of the participating members in this Players Coalition. And if you remember back earlier in the year, the Players Coalition was a group of players from various teams in the league and some retired players who agreed to sit down with the league and with the ownership to try to find some middle ground with the national anthem protest, as well as the NFL stance in their, perspective on what was going on social with the criminal justice system, police brutality, and things like that. And if you remember, the league agreed to give several $1 million to different community service programs and initiatives. Some believe as a way to just appease and to to extinguish what was going on with the protests. So Malcolm Jenkins has been one of the more vocal players in the league to be speaking out in support of the protests and what's going on socially. And so now that the league and the teams are starting the training camps, of course we're starting to see the interviews and things like that. The media wants to get an idea of how these teams are preparing for the upcoming season. They are talking some football stuff, but for these particular players that have been highlighted as individuals who are outspoken on these more social issues, they want to know about how they're going to respond to the national anthem policy and how does Donald Trump's actions and his statements, how do they affect them? And he took a new approach to addressing the media. He just basically muted them out. He ain't had much to say because he felt like the media wasn't listening. So he is still kind of out there finding different ways to keep the issue at the forefront and not let it be lost in about the soldiers and about disrespecting the flag and all of that stuff.
Well, what was their approach? Can you kind of describe to the people what their approach was?
So in the last locker room interview that he had, the journalists were asking them questions, and they were, like I say, asking questions about how he felt about the new policy. And he basically used some nonverbal cues. He just used some signs. Some posters that he had that had statistics that were pertinent to what was going on as far as incarceration rates and people experiencing police brutality and the school to prison pipeline and how many kids in the black community that are impacted by that. And so he was just communicating with the press on his own terms using these signs and not even saying nothing to them. So he really was just putting the spotlight on the fact of no matter what I say, no matter even what I put up for you to read, you're still not listening. You're still not paying attention to what's going on. You're just trying to get that sound bite to fit your agenda and not really paying attention to the real.
Yeah, that's what so just to even paint the picture more, because he posted those signs. So he was in the locker room and the journalists were asking him questions and he just held up signs. So the first one was, you aren't listening. And they were still posing him questions. And then they would say, well, what do you mean we're not listening? What does that mean? And then he showed the next one that said more than 60% of people in prison are people of color. Nearly 200,000 juveniles enter the adult criminal system each year, most for nonviolent crimes. # stop school pipeline to prison. He had another sign that read, in 2018, 439 people shot and killed by police thus far. Listen to that. This is June, And we've already had 439 people shot and killed by the police. In the U.S. population, 8% equals African American males, 25% equals African American males as far as shot by the police. His other signs read, just to continue to kind of talk about what he said, true patriots. And he had a sign that said true patriots. And he listed out Anquan Bolden, Richard Sherman, Josh Norman, a list of other football players, Doug Baldwin, Chris Long, Torrey Smith, etc., Michael Bennett, etc. He said he said Colin Kaepernick gave $1 million to charity. Chris Long gave his entire year's salary to educational initiatives. Ben Watson and Demario Davis helped push through legislation House Bill 265 restoring voting rights for returning citizens. So not only did he talk about what the issues are, he also highlighted those NFL players that were making contributions. And so I think to your point, the point that he was making, it was saying, hey, you guys are trying to have these sound bites. Y'all are having these hot takes, and it's no more talking. It's, hey, these are the facts. This is what's going on. Let's see how effective this new method can be. Was it effective?
I think so. For nothing else, it just proved that they're not interested. Nobody is really interested in addressing these real problems. Like to read something like that should spark something in your mind. And to me, if I was there, and this probably is a reason why I'm not even in media in that way, is like I would be trying to hone in on, okay, so, like getting behind the issues and trying to get him to talk about maybe some ways that I can use this platform to get out some type of resolution. But I come from a different place, so my frame of mind is going to be different. But it did prove to me that they don't give a damn about what you stand for and what your values are. As long as it don't fit that agenda or the picture that they trying to paint about you, screw the rest of it. They don't care about none of that other stuff. But I like the tactic. I like the tactic. They might change the rule, but you don't get fined for it because you spending your time with the media, so you're fulfilling that obligation, but you're taking control of the situation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how players communicate in the upcoming season. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how this is going to play out.
Yeah,
I'm interested in seeing how things are going to be received in the upcoming football season. I'm concerned that it's definitely going to be a political move for the midterm elections in November, especially if you see a lot of players protesting or not coming out for the playing of the national anthem. I could see 45 potentially, again, just throwing out buzzwords to create to make it a political point. And I felt like the approach taken by Jenkins was a new approach. It caught the attention of a lot of folks. Just not sure how effective it'll be. Time will tell.
Now, one thing that cannot happen though is that the guys that are being outspoken, that are really putting themselves out there, they can't turn into trash on the football field, because at that point you lose your leverage to a certain capacity, because you're not on the field. Then you become that much more disposable. Teams can get rid of you and all of that. But if you are producing and basically are in a position where a team can't do without you, we know that gets you leverage. It's like the dude on your football team that go and smoke before the games or get drunk before the games, and he show up at the game and he put on. Like, the coach don't really want to play him because he breaking all these rules. but he throw down on the field, so you can't just be like, nah, we ain't taking him. So he can pretty much get away with anything. So those guys got to maintain their leverage on the field and be productive for their said teams, I think, in order for it to carry on. Because that speaks the language of these owners and all that stuff. So you got to stay in that position to be able to continue to speak your message and get your stuff out there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We're in the dog days of summer. Not a lot going on. So as we get closer to the NFL season, you'll have the Hall of Fame game. You'll have you'll start having some preseason games, and then the start of NFL season, the Thursday night football will kick off, and we'll see this conversation resurface.
Just like we waiting on football, I'm waiting, Tyke. I'm waiting.
What's that?
I'm still waiting on a Drake response.
Okay.
I'm still waiting, man.
What you waiting on?
I'm waiting on
what
Drake.
happened?
I'm waiting on Drake to come back. I'm waiting on the Sick God to come back with a response to Pusha T.
So get some background into the whole story.
Well, everybody know we've been talking about it for the last 2 weeks. Pusha T, Drake been going back and forth, dissing on each other. Last shot came from Pusha T. And we've been anticipating, many of us out here who like a good rap comeback moment. We're waiting on Drake to respond, but we haven't heard anything in the last 2 weeks. This is out of character because usually we get responses in 24, 48, maybe even 72 hours. We ain't even got that. And based on later reports, we probably ain't gonna get it. The OG J Prince stepped in, CEO, founder, Rap-A-Lot Records, H-Town, called the dogs on Drake. He said, we not gonna respond. And he's in that position to even give more background. J Prince is in that position because his son, Jazz Prince, discovered Drake on MySpace several years ago. I think it's maybe 2006 or possibly even earlier. So Jazz Prince discovered him and brought him into Houston, and they took him under his wing. And so they have played a very important role in this progression that we've seen of Drake. And I think their relationship has developed to a point of respect to where even in the heat of this battle, and probably as bad as Drake wanted to respond, J Prince told him, we not going to do that. He said, we not going to get in the hog pen with hogs. When they go low, we go high is what that sounds like to me.
The pig pen with the pigs.
Yeah, we don't want to get in the slot with hogs. We got to be above that and stay focused on our business. That came from the OG. So I think my anticipation and all that build up and maybe waiting for Drake to say something is over. I don't think it's going to happen. You called it. You said it was done, and I think that put the stamp on it. So, bro, what? Okay, Malcolm Jenkins, we got signed. For those of y'all that ain't watching the live show, Titus doing the continuation of this segment with signs. Some of the greatest beasts of all time. Oh, we're doing a rundown. LL Cool J versus Cannabis. That was a good one. That was over the microphone. Cannabis tried to get the microphone tattoo on his arm. Nelly versus KRS-One. That was a pretty good one. That was something about like real hip hop, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Jay-Z versus Nas. That's one of the top rap beefs. Ether, Takeover. That one got a little ugly. Yeah, that was one that most of us in hip hop community wish wouldn't have gone the way that it went. Pac versus Biggie. Two legends gone too soon. careers have been destroyed by rap beefs. In regards to the Drake versus Pusha T diss, similar to what Jay Prince told Drake, boy, you foolish. I was told not to respond. Therefore, I will no longer respond to this beef. Just like Drake. Freelunch Podcast is a movement, not a moment. We can't allow the Drake versus Pusha T beef to stop this movement. Next time. Oh, man. I know who had something to do with that. I see the handwriting. I know who exactly had involvement in making that happen. The end.
But before we go to the next topic, remind me. Before we go to the next topic, remind me on next show to tell you my Jazz Prince and tight interaction.
Yeah, you met him. You ran into him when you were down there.
In Houston, when I lived in Houston. Yeah. And so, did I ever tell you this story?
Nah, we'll wait for next week though.
Next weekend, but in regards to the topic that you were just referring to,
not to respond. Don't respond then, man. This is a movement, not a moment. Shout out to the H-Town, Rapper Live Records, Ghetto Boy, Fifth Ward Boy, Tila, Do or Die, Pimp C, Bun B, Trader Truth. The list goes on and on and on. Man, we got to do a show in H-Town, man. We got to get back. We got to do something in H-Town. Okay, next topic. I got you. This is the most silent one, though. This is the most silent one. We got to bring the energy.
It is.
We got to take a moment. Some strange occurrences from last week. Two notable figures passed away, transitioned on. Speaking of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade. Anthony Bourdain being a well-noted chef, TV personality. He did that show, Parts Unknown, name of the show on CNN, where he would travel all around the world, different cultures, taking on different cuisines, but would also sit down and talk to individuals from those places and do interviews. So it was a good meshing of different concepts and communication things that bring people together. So he passed away, committed suicide over in France, I believe, is where he was. He was there doing some work, working on a project, and just
working on another season, another episode of the show.
Just didn't come down to do his usual routine. Fell out of his usual routine, and one of his good friends went up to the room and found him dead there. And then we also lost Kate Spade. Kate Spade, known for her accessories, bags, and all kinds of stuff, fashion figure. She committed suicide as well. And she was 55, he was 61, so very close in age. People that are in the limelight, got a lot of money. Both of their net worths, double digits in the millions. So from the outside looking in, people would probably, feel like, based off of that these are people that got their lives together, they're living out their dreams, traveling, see the world, got families and all of that. and then the next thing you know, they take their own lives. And it speaks to something really though that is probably plaguing our world and definitely our country at rates that we probably don't even appreciate, because suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States of America, about 5,000 deaths per year. For every one suicide that is seen through their 25 attempts, that's a high number, and it's about 123 suicides per day, and those are national statistics. So those numbers are much higher than what I would have estimated. But it speaks to, you never know like what people have going on, what their stressors are, and just where they are with this thing called life. But really sad to see that happen to those two individuals the way that it did. So, of course, we send our condolences to their families and loved ones.
Yeah, it's extremely sad. I found out about Anthony, what is it, Bourdain? Am I pronouncing it? Bourdain. Parts Unknown. I've seen that show. Wasn't a frequent watcher, but I've tuned in on occasions. I heard about his suicide actually listening to the radio, and ended up I was en route to Auburn to visit a camp, and I got on the phone with Cook. He's been on the show. We've interviewed him for the show, and he kind of brought it up as well. And said, "Man, did you hear about Anthony Bourdain passing?" He watched the show more frequently than I did, but we got into a very deep conversation, and it was around the mental health and about depression, but it kind of spanned into Western culture versus Eastern culture, and how, from a Western culture perspective, we as individuals value material things. We see someone that has a lot of money and has a lot of exterior things, and we're constantly trying to chase that, what we think is success being materialistic. But what we're seeing is that regardless of how much money you have, regardless of how much material things you have, we all can have different sufferings. And so it was reported that that Mr. Bourdain had struggled with depression for over 2 years. And and for those 2 years he was dealing with the depression. From the outside looking in, we would never know. I think about Eastern culture, where on the Eastern culture, it's about looking for peace from within. It's about kind of tapping into the inner being, tapping into the inner soul, and finding joy and peace from within. On the Western culture and kind of where we live, it's really at a young age, it's been instilled in us to look for peace and look for happiness externally. And I even see it as frequent now as people are traveling around the world and they're posting on the Instagram and social media about they're living their best life now. But I mean, are you really living your best life now because you can travel to a destination that you might not have been able to travel to? That may give you short-term gratification, but if you really want to live your best, in my opinion, this is my belief, if you really want to live your best now, you really have to tap into what that purpose and calling is within your life, and seek joy and happiness from within, and not allow the external things, the material things, the ability to travel and do things to give you circumstantial joy. You really have to look from within. So my heart goes out to the Spade family. My heart goes out to Mr. Bourdain and his family, because we never know what people are going through. From the outside looking in, you would think those double-digit millions of dollars would have been sufficient for him and his family, but We really have to reevaluate this thing called life, and we really have to make certain that as we pour into other people, that we're asking them about their health. We're looking out and just making certain that they're doing okay. But then likewise, when you're pouring into someone else, you have to also make certain that you find ways to fill yourself, and whatever that looks like for you, you really need to make certain that you're doing that as frequently as possible, and seeking help if you need help.
Life is tough as it is. You know, you just think about just the day-to-day grind if you're working a job and dealing with your supervisors and coworkers and family issues and bills and all this stuff. So it's already a lot of weight on most of us on a day-to-day basis. And then just the things that come along in life. And you know, it's reported that he has been suicidal at different points in his life for a while since the ending of his first marriage. So there's a belief that he never quite recovered from, you know, I guess the trauma that came with his marriage ending. And then in Kay Spade's situation, her sister said that she was believing that she was dealing with bipolar. So then you bring in the mental health element to it. And then the stressors that could also build on top of that can build on a depression or the bipolar disorder. And it reminded me of an interview that we did a couple of seasons ago with Carmen and Laura about, you know, Latrice. And you can check that interview that we did. And, you know, they wrote a book about it, Another Day with Her. And it talked about them and how, you know, they were just, by having a relationship with Latrice, they just saw the progression of the disease state, and just how it impacted her day-to-day life, how it affected their relationship. And then she ultimately committed suicide, and just dealing with that and the guilt that they felt as being people close to her and not really feeling like they did enough. So it's just a lot that goes into this. But it just really does speak to, just piggybacking off of what you're saying, is just that self-care. That self-care, taking care of yourself and finding ways to tap into you so that you can fight this fight, man. Because if you don't and you just let these forces take over you, I mean, it can put you in a very, very dark place. And then another thing, too, man, that we don't really talk about a lot in our community is opening yourself up to therapy. Like, you know, this is just kind of individual to individual, but not being afraid to go and to talk to somebody, talk to a professional, not being afraid to share, like, your personal traumas and your personal experiences with a professional that's kind of trained and giving you tools and skills that you can actually use to help get through this stuff, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And like myself, I'm not immune to this. I'm not immune to going on social media and seeing people doing certain things like, damn, man, like, what am I doing in my life? I should be doing this kind of stuff. I should be having these type of things and these type of experiences. And that's going to happen because we exposed to it on a day-to-day basis. But you know, I think there is some value in, you know, going and talking to a mental health professional, like I say, that can just kind of help you navigate through this thing with the armor that you will need to get through, and not being afraid, because we got a stigma in our community about it. Like, if you say you're going to see a therapist or something like that, something wrong with you, and they might lock you off in the room somewhere, and don't nobody want to deal with you. But this is a different day. We're dealing with some different things, so I think it's important for that to be something that people are open to.
Yeah, I think you summed it up very, very well. I think my point is you really have to tap into who you are, and don't allow the external things and the material things to kind of be the metric for your joy, for your happiness. By no means am I no means am I not I'm not talking to myself on this as well, but I am. And I guess what I'm saying is that, like, learn who you are, really search deep within to understand what gives you joy. One thing that gives me joy is this platform. Me having this platform and being allowed to kind of share my thoughts and my viewpoints and my opinions is something that feeds me and fuels me. Likewise, mentoring to young people and essentially trying to share the things that I've learned from my time here on earth with younger people. And so those are things that really fill me up. And we all have something. Tap into what that is, and I encourage you to do more of that versus the materialistic thing.
So we'll leave you. Like, if you or anyone that you know are dealing with something, and you're feeling like you are at the point, they may be at the point of harming themselves or anyone around them, gonna get a suicide hotline, 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. Just call that number, get on the line with someone that can just kind of give you some insight and just somebody to talk to that you can let some of those things out. That's usually kind of the first step in getting balance and getting back on track.
And even a lot of companies have EAPs, employee assistance programs, that cover therapy visits and things of that nature. So depending on who you work for, look into some of the different benefits that you have that comes with your insurance, and leverage your insurance for these type of visits as well. So definitely dial the 800 number. But if you have an employee assistance program as part of your benefits package at work, leverage that as well. So that's all I have to say about that.
Well, that's it, man. We got through all our topics. It's been a busy show. Covered a lot of information. And now it's time to get out of here, unless you got something else.
Nah, it's time to get up out of here. I don't have anything else. I'm back on the road again. Back on the road, traveling for work. Got plenty of stories that I'll share on the next episode or one of these episodes. We'll do story time with Type.
Is that much interesting stuff that go on your commute to the job?
I mean, when I travel and when I'm on the road, my antennas are on full effect. My antennas are up. I see everything. I hear everything. And that's just who I am as an individual. And some of the things I heard and some of the things I saw just this past week alone, I can have all the little children sit around this story time with Type, and I can tell all the listeners about some of my occasions. Let me just say this, and I'll let us go. A guy got kicked off the plane on my last trip, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
That's the teaser for next week. Story time with Type.
That's the teaser. If we decide to tell that story, I definitely tell that story. Guy got kicked off the plane, and we were 20 minutes delayed because of him.
Yeah, we need to hear that story. So we'll put that on. We'll put that on the agenda for next week because I think the people are interested in hearing that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, let's get out of here. This is the Freelunch Podcast, a member of the New South Movement Podcast Network.
Check us out.
www.newsouthnet.com. Also on all podcast platforms, just search New South Movement. You'll find us there. Instagram, Facebook, Freelunch Podcast. Find me, BG_DA27KID.
I'm sorry. I was interrupting because lighting just came in.
Lighting
Just came in and threw me off for a minute. So I do have a live studio audience today.
And a crew.
So this is your boy Tight. You can catch me at Tight_on Instagram. Check me out. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know If you have any commentary, definitely hit us up. We got some good comments last weekend. We enjoyed the comments. And if you can't give us a 5-star, don't rate us at all. We out of here.
But before we go, one last thing. You can also check for the live video feed on YouTube, YouTube/Freelunch TV. YouTube/Freelunch TV. You can actually see us doing this podcast live and in Technicolor. Until next week, we out of here. Peace.
Peace.